What is up, everybody? This is Anthony with VR 365. Welcome to our Sunday Fun Day episode. This, of course, is the after party. We just got done with a really long VR Roundtable episode where we talked to Blake Harris, the author of a new book that is coming up all about Oculus, the early history of Oculus. I think it was a really good episode, so if you guys haven't checked out that VR Roundtable episode, wait until this episode is over and then bounce over to the VR Roundtable channel and go ahead and check that out on our archive. It will be available for you over there. And then also, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming there may be a thread on the Oculus subreddit that was announcing that VR Roundtable episode. And if you decide to, I got a bug flying by my face. If you decide to upvote that, I would not hate you for it because it should get upvoted. A lot of people should see that. But yeah, this is our Sunday Fun Day episode. This is the after party, and we're going to go ahead and get into some discussion today. And normally, I know that I said we're going to have this thing called the Community Spotlight, and we're going to separate episodes. But when it comes to Sunday, there just isn't much going on. And so we're going to have Jay Pace coming on because we've got about 4 people, I believe, that are in the queue to be interviewed on our show here. And on Sunday, it's kind of a lame show. You know, we just don't have a lot of news stories and stuff that's going on a Sunday. So it's going to be really nice to bring Jay onto this show today and get into that and talk to Jay about his interest in VR, how did he get into VR, and all those kinds of things. So we're going to get into that in just a minute here. Before we get started, though, one thing I want to do really quick is, first of all, let's go ahead and let's thank the sponsor of this episode. So let me go ahead and pop that on the screen real quick. So yeah, I wanted to say a special thanks to, I believe, our 7th Patreon supporter. Our 7th Patreon supporter is Sean Dowling. Thank you very much for your support. We truly appreciate that. And this show was brought to you by Sean Dowling. So thank you very much for that. Wanted to get that out of the way there. And then, okay, let me go ahead and just throw on a rando trailer really quick on the screen here. Just a sec. I'm going to find a rando trailer. How about Evasion on PlayStation Insider? Oops. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. Yeah, we'll just throw some rando trailer on the background there. And there we go. Okay, now, did I have any quick news stories that I wanted to get into right before we bring Jay on? And really not much to talk about here, but let's go to the Webby browser for just a quick second. Let's bounce over here to the Webby browser real quick. And I just did want to mention real quick the Oculus daily deal of the day. This is wands. It is 50% off. It's going for $7.50. Normal price is $15. This was awarded VR Game of the Year at IMGA. It feels magical. VentureBeat. You need to play wands. The Huffington Post. The Huffington Post, really? Didn't know the Huffington Post was into VR. But this is by Cortopia Studios. And let's see, this came out back on September 28th, 2017. You know, I don't think I've ever played wands. I think this is one of these games that I just never ever tried, so I really couldn't tell you too much about that. But that is the Oculus daily deal. It is $7.50. Okay, I have one other news story, and then I'll be calling Jay right after this. Okay, so one other news story I wanted to get to real quick is I saw a new game that has hit Steam, and this is the new game. It is called Spectro. Now, this is coming in the spring, But I happened to see this game and I thought, wow, that looks kind of like Ghostbusters. And you know what? It is very much like Ghostbusters. And the developer is Borrowed Light Studios. This is coming spring of 2019. Designed exclusively for VR, Spectro is a ghost hunting action game with roguelike elements. There are infinite haunted levels to explore, chests full of gear to unlock, and hidden totems to find. And if I go ahead and click on Borrowed Light Studios here, one of the things that we're going to see is way back in the days, on June 3rd, 2016, in the first year of VR, the first year VR ever existed. No, that was, of course, way back in the 90s, and even before that as well. But the first year of VR making that comeback, there was this thing called the Night Cafe, which was an environment where you can explore the world of Vincent van Gogh. This is free. It is very positive. It's been around for a very long time. And the developer of that actually has their first legit VR game that is coming this spring. Definitely very Ghostbusters-like. I'm loving the colors of this game. Very colorful, very bright. I like, kind of reminds me of Transference a little bit. Like, you know, the way these bright colors look, I like that. I am addicted to color. The ghosts look a little bit corny, a little bit, you know, kind of on the kiddie side as far as the ghost, but I'm really liking the look of this game. This is right up my alley. I like these type of visuals. Looks very colorful, looks very fun. And Ghostbusters, a Ghostbusters type game in VR, it makes all the sense in the world. It really does. And this is coming spring 2019. I did grab the trailer for this, so why don't we go ahead and check this trailer out real quick, and then we'll go ahead and dial up Jay. But let's go ahead and check this trailer. I'm going to pump up Evasion here.
Simultaneously, where you can use
and let me grab this trailer.
Thing. Well, I'm not doing it right now because there's nothing to tether, but you can tether your teammate to heal them up. Or
All right, well, that is Spectro by Borrowed Light Studios. And I got to tell you, after watching this trailer, it reminds me of Luigi's Mansion a little bit on the GameCube, which of course was very Ghostbuster-esque. I love the visuals. I love the color. Looks fun. It looks exciting. And this is coming in the spring. So we got another nice, cool game to check out coming later this spring. I'm looking forward to this, Spectro. So that looks pretty cool. We'll definitely have to get it on our most wanted charts over there at VR Game Rankings. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our guest viewpoint here, and I'm going to call in Jay. Let me go ahead and turn this trailer down. I'm going to go ahead and get my desktop audio lined up here, and I'm going to give Jay a call. So let's go ahead and see if this works out here.
Hey, Anthony, you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you. How's it going?
It's going good now, man.
Okay. Okay. We're going to have to see on the volume level. I mean, it'll take a minute or two to figure out our volume here, but we'll see what everybody says in chat. as far as our volume is going. But yeah, so here we are. Let me see. Now I got to get my information together about all the questions and stuff I wanted to ask you. So hold on one second. I'm going to pop open the email that I had from you.
That's okay. I'm just muting my TV so that yeah, I don't get feedback.
Yeah. If you have like the YouTube channel up or whatever, go ahead and mute that, and then that way it won't feedback. Did you get a chance to see the VR Roundtable episode at all?
No, I didn't, and I feel like a fool that I didn't watch it. But I'm going to do what you recommended, and at the end of this, I'm going to bounce back and definitely check it out.
Okay. I'm going to turn your volume down just a wee bit here, but just go ahead and ignore. I mean, just operate like normal, but I turn your volume down just a little bit. We'll see how that works out. Okay, so
a couple people in chat are saying volume is fine. Jim Hall, VR Gamers, I am Ruts are saying it's perfect on their end.
Okay, looks like we're good. Yeah, it's just something. It's touching. I mean, it's one of those things where it'll take a little while to get it dialed in, but I think we got it good. Okay, I'm just opening up your... Oh, yeah. See, I wanted to have all your favorite VR games and your 3 recent VR games that you played, and then some of this other stuff. So I got all of this popped out now, and we're ready to go. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start out? I got to change my camera. My camera is always off a little bit when I do these, but let me see. Here we are. Now we're centered. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start out, and let's talk a little bit about your history as a gamer. Now, like Jim Hall said in the VR Roundtable episode today, which you didn't happen to see, but one of the things Jim Hall said is, I think everybody is just like me, and I think it's crazy when people aren't just like me. Now, one of the things that is like me is I've been into video games since the days of the Atari 2600. And I've just been a video gamer the whole way through. And my question for you is, was it similar for you? When did you first get into video games? How long have you been into video games? Tell us a little bit about your back history.
So my days of video game is my earliest memories. Some of my earliest memories are of video games. I would beg my mom and dad to take me whenever they were going shopping, and get 1 quarter, 2 quarters, and I wasn't even tall enough to reach up. And I remember having to get the stools and put them just to be able to grab the joystick and hit the buttons. So I lived in arcades. So to me, my earliest memories were like the best video games. I had to go to an arcade. My first console system I had at home, I think, was a ColecoVision. And but I had a friend that had an Atari 2600. I had an aunt and uncle that had an Intellivision. And I got to like, just at an early age, I was just like surrounded by video games. It was the thing that it was my motivation. I would get good grades at school so that my mom would buy me like the latest Zelda game or something. As far as systems go, like I could babble through a list just of, like, I've had NES, SNES, N64, Neo Geo, 3DO, Wii. My son has a Switch now, but I've also bounced in and out of PC systems.
Okay.
And as far as software goes, oh man, like my Half-Life was a seminal game to me on PC. But yeah, I had the benefit of just being able to play just about every single system back in the day, like late 70s. I'm 45, guys, so I was born in 1973. And like, that's when video games at that point, there wasn't much. Like, you had to kind of hit an arcade. So I got to see, the whole generation, and I was sad to see arcades die. Do you remember when arcades died, Anthony? What was it, like the 90s? I was just trying to remember when arcades stopped.
It was
the best place to go.
It was probably basically the PlayStation killed arcades is pretty much what happened.
Yep, PlayStation 1.
And what it was because like right when the arcades started to die, it was like Virtual Fighter, and like we were up to like Mortal Kombat 3 and stuff like that. And arcades were still very popular when it was like Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 2. And then you got like Killer Instinct and stuff. But right around, I would say it was probably around like 96, 97 is when arcades really started to die out.
Yeah, I would agree. And it was, to me, it was sad because there was a time when I think I had the best of both worlds, because I had a console at home. I had an Amiga 500. So I had like a pretty cool PC at the time. I had a cool console, and I was, hitting all the best arcades around my city, which, I had them all mapped out. We had good arcades at like the bigger malls, but I would go to Canada's Wonderland in Toronto. I don't know if anyone's around the Toronto, Canada area, or if you've ever been to Canada's Wonderland. Back in the day, they had one of the best arcades, and people would be going on the amusement rides and stuff, and I would run to the arcade and just see all the new games that they got. And the same thing. I would jump on a bus when I was like 14 years old and go to Toronto. I'm in Hamilton, Ontario. Toronto's about an hour out, and I would beg permission from my mom to say, "Mom, I want to buy a bus ticket and go to Toronto." She'd say, "Why?" "Oh, I just want to play the arcade. I just want to hit the because they had the best arcades in downtown Toronto at the time." So yeah, I don't want to go on and on about arcades because I think there's a whole generation that's moved on. But
well, you know what?
That was my early history.
Actually, I mean, we could transition real quick here because maybe arcades will kind of make a comeback in certain ways in terms of like these location-based VR centers. I do believe the location-based entertainment is going to get big, because the thing about VR, like most of the stuff that we're complaining about with VR is we want that extra level of immersion. Most of us that are playing VR at home right now, and we really wish like our entire bodies were in VR. We wish that we could walk around, and we wish that there was like a chair and we could sit on it and it's in VR and the chair is there, and all these cool things. And that's what location-based VR entertainment centers, that's what they're going to bring to the table. Like stuff like the Void and stuff is going to be incredible, I think, as we get into the next 5 to 10 years. Disneyland, Universal Studios. Like, do you ever go to any of these theme parks? And do you think, like, I know if I went to a theme park right now, I'd probably be looking at all the different rides and thinking, okay, how is VR and AR going to completely revolutionize this whole thing? Because I think it will eventually.
Right now, I'm kind of surprised at the way that they're mixing. Like they're doing these mixed experiences where you're on a roller coaster and they're giving you a VR headset at the same time. To me, personally, I think that's kind of a weird idea, because I would ride a roller coaster to be on the roller coaster and to actually see the real life kind of spinning around. And then, to me, I can see, because I've seen the evolution of video games go from like Pong and Pac-Man all the way up to, virtual reality. I can kind of keep drawing the lines, and I'm seeing, and this is crazy, but I'm going to picture a day where we are plugging in our senses into virtual reality. And that's when things like Elon Musk's Neuralink company is just very mind-blowing to me. The fact that there's real companies, real geniuses spending millions, maybe even billions of dollars to try to get an interface, a human-to-machine interface that'll actually incorporate our senses into virtual reality. And to me, that's everything we're doing right now is almost like it's like a transition to try to get to, the simple way to say is like the Matrix. We'll plug into the Matrix. And that's kind of a Hollywood way to try to understand. We're going to have, we'll be able to smell, taste, touch, do a lot more than we are right now in virtual reality. I can't wait.
Yeah, but are you going to be the guinea pig that signs up for that? You know?
You know, it's funny. I tweeted to Elon Musk. He's answered one of my tweets in the past. He gave me an answer on a tweet a while ago when I asked for. I said, can we have a kit like AI in our car? Kit from the Knight Rider show.
Yeah.
Can we have a kit like AI in our cars, in our Tesla cars, anytime soon? And he responded with a yes. And I actually printed that tweet out. It's in my garage. Anyways, yeah, back to what you were saying. Would I be the guinea pig? I've tweeted Elon Musk that I think it'd be super cool to have like, you know, and this is the big leap. You know, before people, and this is where we can talk about wireless versus non-wireless, because, you know, wired VR, wired experiences tend to be much more rich. It's communicating more information. But as we talk about a future with 5G, I think we're going to start to see this bridge where it's a wireless information is kind of matching the amount we can get for wired. Anyways, would I be the guinea pig if it was not being me plugged in and I didn't have to go through any kind of surgical procedure? I would absolutely be the guinea pig. So if it was just like a helmet I would put on and I could like close my eyes and drive my car better than I actually could by actually using my hands and legs, because it's like a direct interface from my brain to the machine. I think that's going to be revolutionary. I can't wait, man. That day is coming. You know, it really is.
Yeah, it's coming, but it might be like 25 years away. You know,
it might be. No, and you know what? I'm willing to be patient. Even if you say it's 25, that's fine. You know, my guess is when you listen to people like Ray Kurzweil and prophets like that, like they were saying what in the year 2045. You know, we'll have the singularity and this crazy exponential explosion of technology. I think leading up to that, we're going to start to see people plugging into machines one way or another. And you know, to go back to what you were originally saying about LBEs, location-based entertainment. I just watched. It was Norm from the Tested channel. And he was at an experience where they were doing the Terminator experience. And I know you've talked about this on an earlier VR 365, where they mapped the person's face onto you're a Terminator robot, and you're going through the experience. Do you recall that?
Oh yeah. We had a little video of that. Dean Takahashi, right?
Yeah. So that, you know, stuff like that, to me, that's compelling. Like that's maybe a reason to go back to the arcade. But you know, something else I think we should talk about is friction. Like I also watched Nacy. He was at a VR amusement park was it China? Did you watch that? So that was incredible to see all the different experiences, but there was so much friction involved. You know, putting on this hygienic face mask, and there was always an attendant, and you were being kind of hooked up. It was almost like the hookup and the unhooking took you half the time of the experience. So if they can find a way to make that a little more elegant, where you're just kind of literally walking through a mall and you look over and you can kind of hop into a chair and they put something over your head, and you literally you can feel like you're running. Like to me, the movement in VR is again something that I've had many debates with friends, colleagues about movement in VR and how we can actually translate like real movement into VR. And I don't think we've got anything close right now. Like these treadmills and these shoes, and to me, it's very rudimentary, and it's not a way to kind of communicate the elegance that the human body can actually incorporate. Like when you think about you know, your feet and the ability to kind of like perch on a ledge and then be able to jump back and then crouch and then roll around and stuff. Like I want to be able to capture those kind of movements in VR.
Oh, I mean, imagine this. Like just think about. I mean, we've seen like a Infinitrack or Infinideck and all these different things where they have, you know, the moving platform right underneath your feet. But like, when are we going to get to a point where you could take off running at a full sprint? You immediately stop. You cut over this way. You cut like. Doing all of that, it almost seems like it would be impossible with some type of moving platform, unless the moving platform was just huge and occupied a huge amount of space.
And I think one of the bridge to gap that is this idea of being able to plug your senses in, where you know, there's a mechanism in the human brain that activates when you go to sleep that shuts off the motor system, so that you feel like you're running in dreams, so that you feel like you're moving in dreams, and you're not actually moving in real life. Every once in a while, you'll kick in stuff under your bed, and that's like that kind of short circuit. But if they can, again, this with a human to machine interface, being able to tap into your ability to, you know, feel like you're in the Matrix, where you can actually run full clip, you can jump from building to building. That I know they're working on that. Like and whether it's 20 years or less or longer, I can't wait. And yeah,
how about this question? How about this question? Can you prove that we're not doing it right now?
Do we live in a simulation? That's a question. It's an endless question. It's a question that I was in university for a minute back in the day, and I studied philosophy, and there was people way smarter than me were thinking we were living in a simulation back. Do I think we're living in a simulation now? Maybe. If it's so good,
it's damn good. It is damn good. It is very convincing.
Yeah, like it doesn't really matter to me if we are or not, because all the rules, you know, are the same. And
but you know, it's crazy. Like those of us that have been in VR, right? I think if you were to take the entire population of people that have been in VR and separate them from the population that has never been in VR, and you were to pose questions like this about, like, is reality, like, is the reality that we're in truly legit, and is it truly the reality that we've always thought it was, where it's like very solid, it's, you know, it's this solid construct, right? It's like you see a mountain somewhere, and it's like that mountain has always been there, it's going to be there hundreds of years after I die, and all of this stuff, you know, everything is so solid, everything is so real. But then we start to get into quantum mechanics, and you talk about the macro world and the micro world, and they start talking about how, you know, if there's no human observer, you know, and you get into all that weirdness, right? But then also on the VR side of things, like I've been in so many VR experiences where I start thinking to myself, man, in another 15 years, like I believe, I'm looking at this room back here, and I think in another 15 years, I'm going to be able to put a headset on, and you know, other than the weight of it being on my head, I might not notice a difference at all. And then when we get to that point where you don't notice any visual difference between real world and VR world because they get photorealism to such a high level, at that point, won't more and more people start to question, like, the actual reality we're in right now, you know?
I think so. I think if you're a hardcore video gamer, with the graphics that we've seen just over the last, say, decade or so, you've already had those moments. You've already had a moment where you can remember, hey, this feels like a video game, or this was, you know, this reminds me of this video game or something. And the way that games are using more and more real-life settings, like I played through Watch Dogs, and I feel like I've been in, I think it's Boston or Chicago.
Chicago, I think.
Yeah, and I've seen pictures of being there, and I'm like, hey, I recognize, like I could almost, there's areas I know I feel like I wouldn't get lost. Like I would know where the bridges are and things. I'd be able to kind of organically kind of pull myself through that city. And it's all based from a video game knowledge. I think that's super cool.
Hey Jay,
you know,
wait, hold on a second. Jim Hall in chat says we've been hitting that blunt that Elon Musk was hitting. Where we got to back away from the bong a little bit here.
Okay, all right. Get back on track. Yeah.
No, I mean he's just saying come back down to earth, guys. Basically, is what he's saying here. But you know, that's
to talk to someone like you. That's you know, you live and breathe VR, and I think maybe I'm a little too bubbly, a little too excited that, you know, I'm just popping off, being able to excitedly talk to someone, you know, that's so well versed in VR and AR and all this cool stuff. So
well, I like these discussions because I say why not, and that's kind of like this kind of a show where I'm interviewing, and it's a Sunday. Look, we don't got breaking VR news right now. So, we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. And I think these topics are interesting. And going back to like your neural link idea and all of that, like how that is going to happen, I can absolutely imagine some Black Mirror episodes that are going to explore that idea, but in the early days of doing a neural link and all the accidents that are going to happen, the mistakes that are going to happen. See, the thing is, it's like I wouldn't want to come to a point where I'm going to interface my brain where they're actually going to perform surgery and they're going to get into my cerebral cortex and put something in there and wire in wires in there. I wouldn't want to get to that point until it's been like proven, like we've been doing this for 100 years. It's kind of like, what do you call it? Like, the eye surgery that people get now, LASIK, right?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
like when
I had that done.
Okay, but remember the first couple of years that LASIK was being done? It was a little bit shaky in the early years.
It is, and a lot of new technologies are like that, but if they can find a way that you're swallowing a pill and using machines that you could only see at the microscopic level, being able to kind of build this kind of network interface into you, and then at the same time, if they said, well, whenever you want the system to go out of you, or wherever you want to upgrade, you just take this other pill, and then you're just going to crap that out of your body, or you're just going to, I don't know, puke it up, or I don't know, something elegant, and you get rid of it, or it just disappears on its own. And you'll be able to maybe verify that with x-rays and everything. Yeah, this machine was in me, now it's not. It's so small, but it's able to actually interface with the human nervous system and show images at human eye level resolution, and that would be indistinguishable from real life. I think, then the scary thing would be is, when does the line get drawn? Who's holding the cords? But still, I feel like we're moving that way, and I just love it. And if that's something that is going to cause problems, we need to figure it out on the way.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on. But let's come back down to earth a little bit here. One of the things you were speaking to was like this idea that you could run around, you could jump and still be in VR. And so now here's something where I think, like, within about 10 to 15 years, I can imagine a scenario, right, where there's these huge parking lots, just huge paved, empty areas, right? And you're just going to see hundreds of people walking around with VR headsets on themselves. And they're basically in the oasis. Because can't we eventually get to the point, seriously here, where you have a VR headset, it's wireless, okay? Everything's wireless. You have a VR headset on, and the headset is analyzing objects around you. So, for example, if you're walking down the street, there's a tree, there's a car, the VR headset is analyzing that, and it might take that tree and it might make it a tree in a fantasy world, or it takes that car and makes it in a fantasy world, but you could be inside this giant interactive world in real reality, moving around. You could run top speed, but this is going to happen more at like these special centers, these special parks where it just is a huge, gigantic paved area, a level surface, and all these people are walking around, and maybe you're not going to walk into them because they're going to turn. It's going to be like a massively multiplayer online game, kind of like zero latency. Do you think that might not be quite as far away?
Yeah, the logistics of it, to me, I'm trying to picture, the parking lot of people that they would almost appear to be like zombies to other people, because you just see these people with their arms out in front of them, kind of walking around, not bouncing into each other or something. I just with the Oculus Quest that's going to be out in, when's the Oculus Quest out in, like a month and a half, 2 months?
Well, supposedly April 30th could be, April 30th maybe.
So, with the Oculus Quest, how big of an area are can you go in your backyard and have a guardian system that's like 100 meters by 100 meters? Could you go to your local park? And could you have that mapped out? What you were speaking of, though, almost reminded me more of like augmented reality, though, versus virtual reality. Because if it's really mapping out everything around you and transitioning it, you could just do that with layers over like a really good AR glasses, and everything you're looking at is animated, or they can add whatever they wanted to, because you're augmenting reality. Like we want to talk about AR and where that's going to go. I think we're going to see advancements in AR, very shortly. The stuff from Magic Leap, $3,000 for what Magic Leap is doing now. Like, they're going to have something, 3 to 4 times as good, 3 to 4 times as inexpensive, in my opinion, within 5 years. Within 5 years.
Jim Hall, Jim Hall in chat is like, here we go. Let's get into the AR talk. Here we go.
Well, I'll preempt it, because I know you would bring it up anyways, and you kind of already were when you were talking about that parking lot experience. If it's really using a lot of real world materials that are kind of fused in, then why not just have this idea of AR glasses? I can see where AR is going to go, where Nerf will have AR glasses for $99, and kids will be able to hold up their hand just like we did as kids and go bang bang, but you'll be able to see like visible lasers fly out of their fingers and be able to score each other and have hit points and power ups. And to me, like, that's pretty frictionless, being able to put on a pair of glasses. They might have like a wide rack, kind of like ski goggles or something, and now these kids are running, and I think that's where I want to see AR go, versus this idea where it's this exclusive thing that you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for, and or maybe have to go somewhere special to experience.
Well, I mentioned recently on one of the episodes here that Wired had I think it was Wired, they have an interesting article, and it's called The Mirror World, and they're talking about AR. And one of the main things that they're talking about, and this is something that Google, Microsoft, all these companies are working on, like this whole spatial computing and spatial operating system and all this stuff. And I know that a lot of this stuff makes people's eyes roll, and they're like, oh, great, here we are, back to the AR future. But the thing is, they really are working on this, because of the commercial applications of this. And we are eventually, for example, okay, let's say you're in some whatever city it is, and imagine if they create an AR skeleton of that exact city, where they know where every coffee shop is, they know where every park bench is, they know where every public garbage can is. They know, like, if we had phone booths still, they would know where the phone booths are, or where the ATM machines are, like all of these little things, where there's open parking spaces, where the parking spaces are closed. Like, all of these things are going to be mapped out. And so eventually, and I'm sure Google is probably farther along on this than anybody else, because of what they're doing. They have these cars driving around, right? Yeah. And they're filming everything. They're capturing everything. And right now that's all 2-dimensional, but I guarantee you in their labs, they're working on 3-dimensional versions of that. And then when we do have the AR goggles, and you're visiting a brand new city, you talk about how you feel like you've almost been in Chicago because you played that game that featured Chicago. But let's say you do go to a new city, or you're going to Europe or something, and you want to know where the bathroom is, or you want to know where the nearest bus station is. And there's just going to be like little arrows on the ground that'll just take you wherever. And there's going to be little, like, where's the best taco joint around here? And all these things are going to just pop up, and it's going to be integrated with your car, and your car is just going to automatically drive. It's going to be a weird ass world. It's going to be the world. Like, see, here's the thing. We're starting to get older and older and older, right? And when we were much younger, And we would think about older people and we'd think, man, their minds must be blown that we're playing like a Super Nintendo and stuff. And they walk by and they see us playing a Super Nintendo like an 80-year-old guy. And they think, wow, I can't believe the crazy things these kids have nowadays. Well, eventually we're going to be that 80-year-old guy. And we're going to be marveling at all the crazy, weird stuff that we have, and this stuff is starting to come. It's going to start coming. Like, see, I feel right now like there's nothing in tech right now that makes me feel like an old ancient man that is like, these darn kids, get off my lawn. You know, there's nothing quite yet that makes me feel like that, but maybe when we're in self-driving cars and everybody has a little indicator over their head that tells how healthy they are and just like all kinds of weird stuff from the future, then I'm going to start thinking, what is this crazy ass world I'm in?
Yeah, and you're lucky you've got two sons that can, you know, maybe help you navigate the far-flung future when maybe technology gets away from you. But I also think we're birds of a feather, and that I think we'll stay abreast of technology. And there's people that, you know, the people that don't do that now, you know, not to knock any demographic, but, you know, someone that, you know, oh, is watching sports and, you know, I don't even need to know how to program my smartphone. My girlfriend can do that because, you know, game's coming on. That's all I need to know. I got my pickup truck and, you know, that mindset, I think they have a harder time when you see these massive shifts of technology, like, you know, no internet and then an internet. It's like, wow, you know, I can remember when people ignored the internet, when it was like, oh, you don't want to go on the internet. Oh, that's unsafe. And, you know, there's very few people in my life that don't have I can count them on one finger, basically. You know, these throwbacks, people that kind of eschew technology versus embrace it. So,
my mom, she still gets the newspaper. She reads the newspaper, and the newspaper is nothing but Associated Press stories that you could have read the night before on the internet.
Right, yeah, read them fresh, yeah, as they happen. I still go to the library in our city every single day, Monday to Friday, just because I work downtown, and over my lunch break I want to be active. So what I do is over my 1 hour lunch break, I'm walking for half an hour, like 15 minutes to the library, and then I'm sitting down for half an hour reading. And I read books, and then it's 15 minutes walk back. But yeah, grabbing a book to me, because I'm on screens all day for my work, and then I'm coming home and I'm playing more video games, and I have even, you know, Oculus Rift. To me, reading paper, holding a book, I like there's a tangible quality to it. So maybe that makes me an old man.
Hey, weren't we gonna get digital paper? Whatever happened to digital paper? Because
that.
See,
E-ink.
Yeah.
E-ink. E-ink was the thing. I remember that. And
you know the movie. The movie Minority Report, you know, when Tom Cruise is on that subway, he's on a subway car and this guy is reading the newspaper, but the newspaper is like, you know, video and stuff, and stories are changing like real time. It's like that would actually be kind of cool, because I know what you're talking about. It is like, I don't want to read a book on a tablet. You know, it doesn't feel right. It's nice to turn a page. Now, maybe that's the old-fashioned man in me, but yeah, where's our digital? Like, you could have a little digital notebook that has 5 pages in it, but all you need is 5 pages because it keeps recycling or whatever. You know what I mean? And it has the digital information on there. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I can see that. So something where you could actually flip a page. And yeah, maybe you get to like page 5 and you need to go back to the beginning, or it, I don't know, auto flips it back. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a tangible quality to be able to hold a book, flip the pages, to be able to bend a page. You know, and I know, yeah, you can do all this digitally, put digital bookmarks in, and you know. But yeah, I like books.
But is that just the fact that we were? You know, it's that old-fashioned thing, like it's the nostalgia in that, or or is there something tangible to it?
Well, I've worked in and out of offices uh, for a better part of my life, and I can remember, hearing that, it's the digital revolution and it's going to be the paperless office, and we use more paper now than we did, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So I think there's going to be libraries for as far as I can see humanity going on, and books. But yeah, the idea of a newspaper, to me, that's just like the currency of information, is the currency being the value of the time that the news story comes out versus the time that you get it. I want to get news right away. That's what I love Twitter for. That's what I love Google News for. So yeah, I use Google News every single day. I'm on Twitter. I see things happening. Sometimes it's local things, avoid this street because of this accident or something. And you want to hear that information right away. You don't want to hear it, on the weekend's edition of some newspaper. So getting, information quicker is great, but to me, I think there's always a place for having some printed material.
Okay, let's go back to like regular old VR. let's go to the Oculus Rift here because
we went from the future to the far past. We were talking like in the year 2040, we'll have this and that, and then it's like now we're talking in the 60s with libraries and books. We got to get back to more present day. I'm with you.
Okay, so you have an Oculus Rift right now, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, when did you get that?
So I was a day one pre-order guy. It was January 2016. They opened the pre-orders, and then I got mine. They started delivering them, I think, at the end of March to people, and I got mine in May of 2016. And I got the touch controllers later that year. Again, I pre-ordered the touch controllers right away and got them, I think, in December. So yeah, I've had it since then.
Okay, so you've been an Oculus Rift guy from the beginning. What about, like, have you ever been tempted by PlayStation VR with like all these exclusives that we see and all of that? Ever been tempted by any of these other platforms?
I'm tempted in a way where I'm watching those other companies and what they're doing to make my next move. I think I'm instinctively going to say now that I'm going to buy PlayStation 5. I believe it's going to come out in spring of 2020, or that's the rumor anyways. And I'm going to buy a PlayStation 5, and I'll buy a 4K TV just ahead of it. And then I'll have the idea that, PSVR 2, the next generation of PlayStation VR, will be my next VR. So have I been tempted by the fruits of another, was your question. And I like PlayStation VR for the ease. To me, there's a little bit less friction. It's got a better interface. The helmet's much easier to wear. And they've grown their software catalog better than I think anyone else.
What about this? Let's quick question here. We're just going to bounce to some different stuff because we can't go forever, but there are some questions I wanted to get in for you. Okay. So you've been with Oculus now, it's almost like 3 years. Like we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary, right, for the Oculus Rift. And all this time that you've been playing the Oculus Rift, do you play a lot of flat games? Do you bounce back and forth with flat, or like where are you at with that?
I'm a bouncer. I'm one of those people you've pointed out in past VR 365 episodes that you can't imagine how someone could kind of go back to pancakes. I go back and forth all the time, and the reason for that is really two, and I've been asking myself this because I knew you were going to ask me this question. It's really two reasons. One kind of trumps the other. It's the budget. The budget of some of these pancake games they're spending, look at a game like Grand Theft Auto. It's like, what, hundreds of millions of dollars. I think I read they spent 300, 400, maybe even $500 million to make Grand Theft Auto and Grand Theft Auto 5. I want to experience that level of production quality. I want to experience what those games are because so much goes into it.
Going back, okay, wait. Going back to early 2016. If you could put yourself into that mind, like when you first got your Rift, did you think that we'd still be so far away from that 3 years later?
Yeah. And the reason for that is just knowing how resolution has kind of like I watched the progression of the DK1 and the DK2 to the CV1 Oculus Rift, and I could see the kind of how they were making these progressional improvements each generation. And what has surprised me is that we don't have an Oculus 2, or sorry, an Oculus CV2, like an actual consumer version 2, or an HTC Vive consumer version 2, at least like kind of promised in a way back in the day when they'd say, oh, it's coming, for Christmas of 2019, or don't worry, like in the spring of whatever. They could just pre-announce this, like, get ready, guys, and plan for, we'll keep you in the Oculus family because we're going to bring out the next generation. I'm a little bit worried about that, to answer your question, that we haven't seen parity with, like, actual computer screens as far as resolution goes. And that's, go back to your previous question of why I go and play pancake games. It's the budget, and then the next question is the resolution. It's the resolution that you can see on a monitor. It's so much sharper. I want to have those sharp graphics in some of these experiences. I'm willing to give that up for immersion, up to a certain degree. But yeah, I like, for example, I'm going to buy Anthem. Anthem is coming out February 22nd, and I'm jumping on board the Anthem train. So yeah, I will go back and forth between VR and Pancake.
What about, like, one of the things that we have seen is that there's some new headsets that seem to be having this 2160 by 2160 per eye. For example, I believe there's 3 of them now that might be on the horizon. We've got the Vive Cosmos is rumored to potentially be 2160 by 2160 each eye. Same thing with Hewlett-Packard Copper. Well, that's confirmed. And then the Acer Oho 500, the Qualcomm reference design, that's 2160 by 2160 per eye. So maybe this is the new standard, and maybe we're going to get one of these this year. What if it was, say, Vive Cosmos? Do you see yourself jumping ship to the Vive ship? Or do you feel like you got to stay in the Oculus camp because you've bought all these games and you don't want to have to, like, revive it? What about Pimax? Has Pimax, like, you hear somebody like Steve Bishop or MRTV or Sweeviver, these people are raving about how once they've tried a Pimax and they get exposed to this higher resolution and this giant FOV, that they find themselves not wanting to go back. Have you been tempted by any of that?
I am. I'm tempted by something like a Pimax. I need to try it for myself, I think, to see that it's going to be worth the money that they're asking for some of those headsets. A bigger FOV to me is right next to a higher resolution.
What's more important? What's more important for you?
If I had to pick just one, I would go, like, if someone said, do you want to double your resolution or do you want to double your FOV? I'm going to say resolution, because you can get so swept away in certain experiences, maybe more than others, like Subnautica. I'm playing Subnautica, and it feels like I'm wearing a scuba mask. Like, you want to talk immersion, like, I'm playing Subnautica. It feels like I'm wearing a scuba mask. You feel the weight. It's got that slight restriction around your face. That's just like a scuba mask. If you've ever been scuba diving, you've got that slight restriction anyway. So you go in a game like that and having the double resolution, I don't think you'd miss the extra FOV. But field of view, yeah, we need that. Give us 140 degrees field of view. Give us this 2K per 2KI or more, and I'll be willing to pay more. Am I tempted? Absolutely. What Pimax needs to do is to figure out some kind of a way to display their product in some kind of a retail space, or bring it around in semi-trucks to big cities and say, this is the Pimax experience. Come on in, everybody. And I'll line up for that because I want to see if it's much better than my Oculus Quest, or if it's a lot better than my than my Oculus, I would absolutely switch. Yeah. How about you, Anthony? What's your feeling on what's the next good headset you're gonna buy?
Yeah, well, you know, one little thing I'll say real quick before we get into that is one of the things I've always thought about is what if we went backwards with our graphics and made everything out of almost like stick people, like almost like wireframe type graphics. But here's the thing. Okay, yeah, we're going back to this, like we go to this wireframe kind of a world, but it's a real world. It has streets, it has tons of rooms, it has like a giant city. Like I think it's almost impossible to do that with like high resolution textures everywhere. But what if it's kind of like these sports games. Like I think about it from a sports game standpoint. And because I used to be a big John Madden football back in the days, I used to play Madden, and I would always think like, what if instead of trying to make more and more realistic graphics on top of this old ass game engine that isn't very realistic, what if you threw all of that away and you said, okay, we're going to completely forget about graphical fidelity, but we are going to have the most well-animated stick figures you could possibly ever imagine. And it's going to be, the football field is going to be the exact size of the football field. And everyone in the stands and the cheerleaders, like everything is going to be flawless, but we're going back to a stick figure kind of thing. And then we'll start to build on that and make that look better. Rather than, because it's almost like the skeleton of our games. It's like we have this skeleton that isn't really representing our reality or whatever it's trying to simulate, and we keep putting prettier and prettier graphics on top of this skeleton that isn't really Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, I do. Yeah, just if you keep wrapping something instead of actually working on the actual fundamental underlying architecture. I know exactly what you're saying. One of the ways I picture that in my head, Anthony, is that you can't have your cake and eat it too. You imagine when you're creating a character, you can't have when they say you've got 50 experience points, you can't have a guy that's like a huge Conan type muscle guy, and he's also can run as fast as the Flash. It's really like a case of, do you want speed or do you want power? And it's a balance of one or the other. And you're talking about a balance between, graphics and wrapping things versus actually having the underlying mesh, that's super realistic. And I'm with you that's a debate that I think. People making games all the time, they have to make these considerations. Do we pull back on the graphics and have a bigger game world, a more immersive game world, or do we have like super razzy-dazzly graphics, but it's you're looking through a pinhole?
Yeah. Well, one example of this is like I think of Grand Theft Auto 5, right? And so like Grand Theft Auto 5, they're trying to like recreate an entire city and pedestrians and cars and taxi cabs, and they're doing all this stuff, and it's pretty incredible. But at a certain point, I think about, what if these developers, like, instead of trying to create this gigantic ass world, and you can kind of say the same thing for Bethesda, like, what if they just tried to create one city block, but have every toilet, every bathroom, every crevice completely rendered like real life, like drawers that you open, pencils you could pick up, paper on the table you could write your name, like maybe it's a tiny little world, but everything that you could do in that world is real as F, rather than you go over to this table, you can't open it up. There's a pencil, you can't write on anything. There's a glass with water, but you can't pour it into the other glass. What if we like threw all that crap away and said, okay, we're going to start with the most basic room ever, but what we're going to do is everything that happens in that room is going to be like real effing life. Like if there's a bottle of wine and there's a wine glass, you're going to be able to pour the wine into the wine glass in the exact way. You're going to be able to take that glass, pour it back into the, like everything is going to behave like real life, but it's going to be this tiny room, and it's kind of, and then build out from there. But I guess, we're never going to do that.
Well, I heard that the next generation of Grand Theft Auto was going to be, they're thinking about the world, whereas they're going to combine all the data they have from all the places they've got now, and they're going to try to offer some kind of, or at least I heard that was the fantasy of the head guy that's created the Grand Theft Auto universe, is that they want to do like the Grand Theft Auto Earth in a way, and have being able to go into every every house and every location, and having like nothing kind of holding you back. And to me, that's really compelling. Two questions I think that we're going to have to grapple with, even just as people, even if you just like literally a genie appears and says, you can have this world, Anthony, but you must define the world. And the two parameters I would ask you, is this genie offering you this world, would be, do you want to have entropy in this world? Do you want to have these objects, get old, die over time? Do you want them to last forever? And the other question would be, is persistence. I think when people envision these worlds, when they say it's the next version of this virtual world we're going to be able to go in, because I can remember hearing this promise a lot of times. It's, what about the persistence? What if you're in a place where it blows up? You're with all these other people, and some other guy blows up this virtual bar that you're at. If you come back the next day, does that bar reappear, or is there a crater there? Now the opposite of that is somebody builds a beautiful bridge. A beautiful virtual reality bridge that joins this virtual reality city with another. That's a creation that's taken the guy maybe X amount of weeks or months. It looks beautiful. Is that something that should last forever? Does he have ownership of creation, property, IP rights over that as well? There's all these little extra questions you need to start to answer. If the more real your virtual world gets, the more real the kind of infrastructure you need to kind of think about to kind of keep that world going needs to be.
Yeah, but you know who's going to help us with all of this? Our AI overlords, man. Have you seen that one video where, like, NVIDIA has this one video where they showed this AI, like, all these scenes of, like, cars driving through, and it, like, recreated it. Dude, AI is going to be crazy. There's a website called These People Don't Exist or something like that. Have you heard of this website?
No.
Okay, there's a website. It's something like These People Do Not Exist or something like that. And every time you refresh it, there's an AI algorithm that creates a human that does not exist in real life. And when you look at some of these humans, it's really weird. It's trippy. In fact, I could show you right now live. Hold on. Let's go over here.
I bet everybody in chat wants to see it.
Yeah, it's let's see. Now, some of the humans that they create, let's see, These People Don't Exist or something like that.
I did see an article that they were creating. I just saw, they were creating these pictures of people that don't exist.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that came from a specific website.
Okay, yeah. Here's the website. Okay, this is it right here. This is the actual, well, we're on a 7-second delay here or whatever, so it's going to take a minute. But it's called thispersondoesnotexist.com. And when you go to it, it shows a single picture. And then basically you've got to refresh it, and then it'll show a new picture. Like right now I'm seeing the face of an old man, and I can kind of tell that it's fake. But some of these, man, I cycle through some of these and I think, man, this person looks like a real freaking human. And this stuff is starting to scare me a little bit.
Well, it's absolutely fooling you. Like I'm fooled when I see these pictures, and this is what we need to expect as we move into a future where we're going to start to work with artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and which will eventually spawn artificial superintelligence. We need to kind of get used to this. You've heard about the ability to create. I think that was Adobe created a speech from Obama's previous speeches.
Deep fakes. Yeah.
So to me, that's artificial intelligence it's doing things we can't. It's beating us it's fooling us in ways that it fools us. It doesn't, I can't imagine anyone would look at these pictures
Like
and
that
just
looks
go,
fake
oh,
right there, but
yeah, no, yeah, who could do that?
like this person looks real. Like some of these people look really real to me. And the cool thing about it though, I mean, this is going to be hyper scary, but also like everything that's good is also bad. You know what I mean? Like everything that's great could also be used horribly wrong. And but one of the cool things though is like designing these gigantic procedural worlds and like procedural characters, and then also we're eventually going to have conversations with these NPCs that are going to be legit conversations where we feel like, have you ever seen that movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix?
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Imagine that. I mean, that's a really good movie, I think, in terms of like getting you to think about 15 years into the future, these operating systems, because think about it. I could imagine an operating system, an AI-powered operating system that will actually look into your past. It'll look at every text you've ever sent, every forum post you've ever made, and in about 10 minutes, it's going to basically know you better than you freaking know yourself. And it's going to be able to have the deepest conversation, like a deeper conversation with you than you've ever had with a real person on planet Earth. It's going to be the most bizarro world ever, man. I don't even know.
I don't want to scare you. I don't want to scare you, Anthony. But the flip side of that is, the double-edged sword factor of that is, this AI will be able to come up with the creepiest spiders, the biggest, creepiest Black Widow spiders,
oh my God,
in ways you've never even imagined. Because you think these things will be designed to help us, and they should. And I'm believing in the benevolence of AI. The idea that we're going to see a Terminator future and AI will be our undoing. I'm not thinking that. I actually go back to maybe what one of the things Ray Kurzweil said is, we won't be fighting artificial intelligence. We'll be merging with it. And we already have started to merge with it. When you think about your smartphone, how, you don't want to leave your home without it, and how it's like a companion to you. You think about just something like that getting bigger and better in a way that, you cannot see yourself removed from it. And all of a sudden you realize that, oh my God, 20, 30, 40 years, we are in the singularity. We are Borg, or we are, we have merged with our technology. We can live in these simulations that mirror the real world, and technology is happening really, really fast, faster than I ever could have imagined it, and I'm just on this roller coaster ride for fun, and I'm really glad, super glad that I have people like you in my life. I feel guilty up until now. I have not been a Patreon subscriber. That's going to change after today. It won't be a lot, but I will say if everyone would contribute what I'm going to contribute, which is, even something like, everyone thinks of a cup of coffee. You're buying Anthony a cup of coffee a month. You think about how that can help grow the channel and support you, do what you do, buy more hardware, buy more software. It's people like you that are really helping the rest of us kind of understand this crazy world that we're moving into, Anthony.
I got to tell you, Jay, the check is in the mail, baby. No. But no, I truly appreciate it. Yeah, this stuff is fun to me. Like, I really like this stuff. But you know what? Before we close out of this, because we are running quite long, and I do got to get out of here pretty soon. But before we get out of here, I just wanted to ask you real quick about like the Oculus Quest. It's coming very soon. What do you think? Like, are you planning on picking one of these things up? And what do you believe? Like the downgrade, you know what I mean? Like the Snapdragon 835. Like, you've talked a lot about friction, and friction is an issue, and friction should probably be considerably lowered with the Oculus Quest. But then at the same time, you also like these high-end, high production value games like Red Dead Redemption and you want to see that kind of stuff in VR. But a Snapdragon 835 is probably not going to be able to do that. When you think about the Oculus Quest, how do you categorize it? How do you think about it?
I think the Oculus Quest is going to bring more people into VR that don't have VR yet, that don't have an HTC Vive, that don't have an Oculus at home yet. I think those people are going to be the ones that are going to really jump onto the Quest. For me personally, I don't want to downgrade in resolution. It worries me when I hear that they compare these side-by-side experiences, dead and buried on the Quest versus regular Dead and Buried, and it almost looks like there's parity there, but they say it's a specialized version. So they've had to spend a lot of time and effort to try to decode and recode the game in a way that it doesn't perform the same. So to me, it's a step down. I love the fact that you don't need sensors for it. I love the fact that you just throw it on you and you could take it somewhere else. You could use it in your backyard. You could use it at a cottage or something, or let a friend borrow it and not have to go through all this setup with them. I love all that. I just think it's really designed to bring more people into VR that don't already have an existing VR setup. If I had money to just throw at it, I'd buy one, and I would probably see my kids using it more than me. But I'm going to save those bucks for other purchases, like I say, 4K TV, PS.
Don't do the 4K TV, man. Dude, 4K TVs, I got one of those, but I got it a long time ago, but I think
the OLED, the brand new OLED 4Ks, the best rated TV from last year from CNET. I forget what the exact model is. I think it's an LG or a Samsung. I have it bookmarked. Anyways, I'm watching for that TV to specifically drop in price, and I'll buy a 4K OLED probably October, November this year, maybe Black Friday. And the OLED 4Ks now are really good. And if you can get 4K content for it, to me,
what 4K content? What 4K content?
Well, that's why I want a PS. That's why I want a PS5, or I'll also get an Ultra Chromecast, so I'll be able to at least stream 4K content to it. But yeah, there's not a lot of native 4K content, and that's kept me from upgrading my existing TV up until now. But I think this year and next year are the time to jump on 4K.
It's weird because, I used to be a home theater guy. Like, this actual room here, this whole room was, it was a 3-car garage, and this was like, I don't know, it might have been like 2004 or something, or I don't remember what year it was, but my wife gave me the go-ahead to just do whatever I wanted to do with this garage and make it into like a media room or a man cave or whatever. And so I did all of this, and I had a big screen over here that's 128 inches diagonal. I had a projector right here. I was really into home theater, not 7.1, 7.2, man, double subwoofers, all the whole deal, right? But after getting into VR, like once I experienced VR and then knowing that VR is basically headphones and a headset that's on your head, now I can't spend a dime, like in my conscience will not allow me to spend a dime on any screen or speakers because I think everything is going on my head. It's going to be AR, VR, headphones. Like, I'll buy better headphones but it's hard. It's so hard for me to think about spending like $2,000 or whatever on a kick-ass TV to watch like a 4K Blu-ray and just see, whoa, those blacks are so pretty. Because did you ever try like the invisible hours? Like do you think cinema is eventually going to get into VR? Like because we don't really watch TV shows and movies in VR, but do you think that's inevitable? Like once we have like fractals and all this that Intel's talking about? I know it's a big question there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I stumped you.
Kind of blind. Yeah, I'm blindsided on that one. Yeah, I have an opinion about a lot, but that's something I'll say. Yeah, I need to learn more about. Definitely.
Yeah, because I used to be a home theater guy. I was on the AVS forums, which are these really popular forums for like hardcore. Like I had a Blu-ray player like the day those puppies came out. I had a HD DVD player the day those puppies came out. I've always been a video game nut, but I was always like a home theater nut as well. Like I remember way back in the early 90s, I had a hi-fi VCR way before anybody had a hi-fi VCR. And I was like getting I remember Jurassic Park featured Dolby surround sound. And it was like one of the first VHS tapes that had like Dolby surround sound. And I was renting VHS movies and I would be like, ooh, hear the machine guns? Do you hear how the helicopter went over? You know, I was into all that stuff for so long. But now that I've experienced VR, I feel like buying a new projector or like buying a fancy TV, I feel like why would I throw that money should go to the Vive Cosmos or whatever, you know, like some Star VR or something like that. Why? But you're still going to get this 4K TV. Now you do have other people in your family. You know, you got your wife and your kids and all of that.
Yeah, and that's because if I was a bachelor, I'd be looking at it differently. I'd be living in a different place, be thinking about monitors in a whole different way. To me, there's the shared experience of having home theater, and I've had pretty good home theaters on and off. Right now I have a 60-inch Sony HD TV with a 7.1 Harman Kardon surround system. You know, and I pride myself on, you know, buying brand new Blu-rays. We watch stuff as a family on Netflix, and I love that experience. When you put on a headset, it's you and the experience. You know, you're in there kind of by yourself. And there's pluses and minuses to that. It's a little not antisocial. It's less social, I guess, is a way to look at it. I like that you can do home theater experiences with VR. Like people can put on like an Oculus Go or Quest or a Rift, and they can have virtual home theater experiences. And on that note, and this is something I wanted to mention to you, and I bet everyone in chat is going to agree with me on this. Wouldn't it be great to have a future version of VR 365 that we're all in virtual reality together? Ideally, it's in a space where you can have people with PSVR, and this is a dream, but have people with PSVR headsets, people with HTC Vive, and people with any kind of Oculus Rift or Go or Quest, and we can all get together. And we're watching you, but then you can also bring people down from the crowd in a way, and kind of you'd be showing off things in VR. We can almost be kind of going on a journey with you. Can you imagine that, like that kind of evolution of the VR 365, Anthony? I think it would be awesome, like just to have us in VR with you, or even if we just have these VR experiences with you in the future. If you could there's future experiences where you could say, okay, we're going to do a Let's Play where you guys are kind of with me in a co-op experience or something, or we pick out 4 players and we're all going to do this co-op Let's Play. I just think that there's ways that you can involve more people in chat, because you have a great community of people here. I got plucked today to talk live to you, and I really appreciate that, and I'm really thankful for that experience. But you got other really great, cool people, well-versed in tech and VR, with probably more information than me. I would love to I've had such a great experience chatting with them on the side during your shows and stuff, that I would love to kind of take that to the next level where we're all kind of together in these shared VR experiences.
Yeah, I've thought about it, like these 180 cameras and stuff. Like I thought about, if I had like the money to throw at it, like I thought of if I had a cool 180 camera, right? And I created like a set, like almost like a little like broadcasting set where it was like a 180 design and it had like a VR 365 logo and stuff. But we need to get to the place where like we have 180 trailers of every VR game that's coming out. And like we haven't even solved that yet. I liked what that one company did. It was Stormborn Studios, the guys that made Runes VR. They had that interactive VR trailer. I don't know if you tried that. It was on Steam. But we need to figure out a way, like all the game trailers that we get, Shadow Legend VR, all these different games that we're looking at, Asgard's Wrath. Like, when are we going to get to the point where there's a standardized 180 trailer? And then if I had a 180 show that you could actually watch in VR, then when I go to the trailers, they're 180. Or I could go to like some VR gameplay experience and I could be like standing within the world of Arizona Sunshine as I'm talking about it. There is a future. That is a future. I don't know how it's ultimately going to shake out. You had that one guy, Will Smith, not the actor, but the other Will Smith. He was doing a little show that was in VR where he was interviewing people. What was it called? I can't think of it now. But he was doing a show where it was in VR, but it was like an animated version of him, and they were like in the watchtower of that game, Firewatch. They were like up in the tower, and he was talking to the developers and stuff, and they were talking about how they were going to have all these other episodes, but it didn't really happen. I don't know what that future looks like, but there is a future. That future is coming, to be sure. But you know what? I probably need to get out of here. Let's see. There's one other question I wanted to ask you, though, real quick. But So the Oculus Go. So do you have an Oculus Go at all? Have you ever been tempted by it? Because the one area where I would be tempted is what you talk about, like going on vacation or something. The nice thing, I have an Oculus Go, and I've gone on vacation, and I've actually been on an airplane flight to Hawaii, and I used my Oculus Go during the flight. I wasn't even embarrassed by it. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. And then when you get to the hotel and stuff, because you could just kick back on your bed, the hotel gives you a little 32-inch TV, but you have your Oculus Go, and bam, you've got like an 80-inch screen in front of you. The resolution isn't quite there yet. We might only be 5 years away, maybe not even 5 years away, though, where we're going to have an 80-inch screen in our VR headset that is the equivalent of a 4K LED. Like, how freaking amazeballs is that going to be?
Yeah, the resolution's getting better. I would love to have something portable if I could justify a need for it. Thankfully, I don't have to travel for work or anything. The traveling that I do is usually with my family. I try to be kind of present for the experiences that we
tune them out, man.
And then I run home, and I'm putting on my wrist as soon as we get home from family vacation. But I just think there's a time and a place. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. When I'm away from VR, there's a part of me that's thinking, I can't wait to get back. And I can't wait to see the headsets to come, resolutions improve, friction reduce. I think we're all on track to see that, in the months and years to come, and I'm excited. And I'll be right here on this channel, watching every day, watching you report on it. And thanks very much, Anthony, for all you do.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. This is fun for me. I mean, I sometimes I might threaten that, like, I'm gonna quit at some point, but I don't know. I don't, like, if I were to quit doing this after about 3 weeks, I'd be like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. So there's times where I'm like, oh, this is really starting to drag, but I just got to stick with it. The cool thing about this show, and the reason I really like this show, it doesn't get as many views as like my old show used to get, where I would like pre-record it and I would edit it and all of that. Like, that show got more views than this show. But the thing I love about this show is I could jump up on here and just have a few news stories to work with, a few trailers to work with, and usually end up with a pretty fun hour, and it all works out. So I like it. Oh, The Foo Show. That's Ray Pope checking in. Yeah, The Foo Show by Will Smith. I think they only had like 2 episodes of that altogether, though.
Well, someone will say you could even do something in Rec Room. You could set something up in Rec Room, which I think is cross-compatible with different headsets. So if you had a show in Rec Room, I don't know, I think that could be pretty neat, maybe more interactive. Maybe...
I've seen some of the one time tested did a show in VR, and it was good for about 3 minutes, and then it was like, okay, take the headsets off and let's see your faces now. This is not fun anymore. But I wasn't in VR. I was on YouTube watching it. So maybe if you're in VR watching it, Yeah, I mean, imagine I could be like Ricky Lake or freaking Phil Donahue or Oprah Winfrey or whatever. You know, you have an actual audience and like, come on down.
Yeah, you'd be a virtual host, and your show's already grown. You know, I've seen, even if you say your viewership is down, I've already seen your show and your ability to kind of deliver content more naturally evolve over the past couple of years I've been watching, and I think you're getting better. I can imagine, you know, you're going to embrace new technology as it comes down the pipeline, and maybe make things a little bit more interactive. But even if they don't, if I just end up showing up every day and I can talk with these cool dudes and chat, you know, I'll be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Jay, thanks so much for joining us. This was a really super interesting conversation. I'm obviously going to have you on again, because we kind of got into all this crazy talk and we didn't really do a lot of VR talk in terms of like the nuts and bolts of like friction and all of that. I kind of want to try to dial down deeper on some of these topics, like what's holding VR back, how long is Oculus going to continue to fund this stuff and all that stuff, and I think it'd be interesting. So we're definitely going to have you back on. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was super awesome. I'm going to go ahead and end our Skype call, but thanks so much, Jay. Truly appreciate it.
You're welcome, Anthony. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Back on whenever you want. Bye.
Okay. Take it easy, Jay. All right. Okay, so that was Jay. Thanks so much for joining us. Super appreciate that. And yeah, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep having these kinds of episodes. And, you know, I thought there was some really interesting talk. I know Jim Hall at one time is like, come back down to earth. But I like that stuff. Sometimes we need to float away from Earth a little bit. Sometimes we do need to hit that blunt with Joe Rogan every now and then. But anyway, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for our Sunday Fun Day episode. It is over with about now. And I will be back on Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, right around there, sometime right around there. So I will see everybody tomorrow at 11 a.m. Hopefully some nice, exciting news stories. I know we do have a number of big games that are coming out this Tuesday. Chroma Gun VR, I know, is coming on Tuesday. There's something else Dick Wild 2 is coming on Tuesday. And then I believe Thursday, Shadow Legend VR. So this upcoming week looks pretty exciting. And then, of course, GDC is not too far away. So the news cycle is going to start to pick up a little bit. But yeah, I got to bounce out of here. I will see everybody tomorrow around 11 a.m. See you guys then. Take it easy. Have a wonderful weekend. Later.